will talk about the Tidewave mattress, which is in so many ways unique that when I started working for the company for 2 years ago, it took a while to understand what makes this product so different from anything you've seen and used so far, which is quite good. Stefan asked me to introduce myself. I will do that in a second. I just have this one, so we work together and we think it is fun. It is going to be really good. We're going to talk a little bit about the Tidewave mattress and what we do with the mattress, what makes it different and why and how, and how you can save money, lots of money, using the mattress. This is me here. I work a lot together with my colleague Raymond, and this is my biography. So I'm a physio by background from the Netherlands. I live in Norway. I've done that for the last 41 years, and for the last 35 years I've been working for companies, mostly on wheelchairs and wheelchair seating, been on the manufacturer side, so product management for how making new wheelchairs and stuff like that. I've been working for Jay as the European product manager, and since I worked for Jay, I've been more and more going into the direction of pressure ulcer prevention. And that is for the last little bit more than 20 years. And in those years, we have understood more about the relationship between seating and laying. So the laying position has something to do on the seated position, and if you have deformities, etc. But work more and more on the laying part. And instead of retiring myself for 2 years ago, I started working for Tidewave. I've known Tidewave since 2016. At that time, there was a bunch of students, 3 students. It was the grandfather of one of these who had a patent, which is the Tidewave today. He was the kind of type who loves to develop new products, and orders from a hospital in Norway, in Bergen. He made this prototype, but never launched it. When I saw the first time a drawing of or a little video of how it worked in 2016, I thought, wow, this is the best product idea I have ever seen. And now I've been working for the company, for Tidewave, for 2.5 years. It is, as a matter of fact, the best product I've ever worked with. And that may say something. What we do and what you all work with is the prevention and treatment of pressure ulcers. And it is a challenge in many ways. And I'm going to give you a teaser of this product. So we know that pressure ulcers are caused by pressure and shear forces over time. And that is the basic thing. And on all products, 99% of all the products you work with, you still have to reposition the patient regularly. How often is always the big discussion, but science says you have to do it more often than you want to do. The Tidewave mattress, what we do with this mattress, you reduce the pressure. We eliminate shear, so we remove the factor shear from the equation, and we remove the factor time from the equation. So you see now this mattress on the left side moving quickly from side to side. In reality, is from the top here until the top there, up to 1 hour. So it is going extremely slow. So slow that you don't get pressure ulcers. So fast that you repair pressure ulcers. And well, of course, the repositioning stuff is not completely gone, because you still, of course, have to put someone in bed and if you have taken care of this person, you need to position them again. But for the rest, you don't do anything with the patient. And then we prevent pressure ulcers, and that is the unique part of this product. You help in actively, directly, immediately to repair pressure ulcers. We are a small group. Of course, if you have any questions, you mark it, you put up your hand or whatever, and ask questions. We are not so many, and I think it is good that you're able to ask questions. And Stefan, if you see a question, you shout out and stuff like that. So reposition is a challenge. We know this stuff. It is a burden for the patient to be repositioned. For the caregiver, so for the nursing staff, it is the heaviest job you have is doing this repositioning. And for the hospitals or the payer or whoever it might be, it costs a lot of money. And we don't know if it really helps what you're doing, because you still see a lot of pressure ulcers. So if you now say that we're going to do an experiment that tonight you're going to bed and you're going to put yourself in a very comfortable position, and you stay in this position for as long as you're able to do. Don't move. Don't look at your phone. Don't move. Keep awake. The question is, how long do you think you can stay in that same position? This is a question you have to answer for yourself. Some of you will say, oh, I'm a mover. I need to reposition every 5 minutes, something like that. Others will say, no, I can stay for half an hour in the same position. And there are very few people who can stay in the same position without moving for more than 30 minutes. Very few. Most of us are, as a matter of fact, below 10 minutes. So within 10 minutes, we need to move. We need to reposition. And if you compare that with what we do with our patients, that we tell the patient, if we're really good, we come back within 2 hours. If we're not so good, we take maybe 5 hours to do a reposition. We know how the world is. But how can we accept, in a way, that for ourselves, we need to move at least within half an hour. But for the patient, we can say, hey, you just stay there for 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours. And when you talk to patients who still have sensibility in the bodies, sensitivity, they will tell you that waiting that last half hour before someone is coming to help them to reposition, that can be a really, really pain. So the solution, is the Tidewave mattress. And what does this thing do? To start with, it is the intended use. And the intended use of the Tidewave mattress is that it is a curved mattress that creates a continuous movement to prevent and treat pressure ulcers up to and included category 4. This is the strongest intended use you have ever seen for a product. What we say is you put this person into this mattress, and with quite a few small rules attached to that, this person will not get pressure ulcers, and this person, if they have pressure ulcers, they will start to repair. It's completely crazy, but this is what happens with everyone. And it is great fun. It is great fun. These are the 4 unique points for the product. The first one is that we have the hug. I'll extend a little bit on that in a second. The second one, and that is a very specific one, that when the mattress moves, the patient moves together with the mattress. They move synchronized. They move as one. And then the third one, it is moving so slow. You can't believe it. And then there's an all-in-one mattress. So the whole product, the pump, the system that makes the curve, and the system that makes the lateral movement, it's all included in one product. So what is now this hug? When you start the mattress, it is a foam mattress. If you look just superficially to it, you say it's a foam mattress that has a different color bottom under it. The bottom side has a different color. And when you start the mattress, the sides will curve very slowly up. That process of curving up takes half an hour. And what that does is two sides. The one is the human side. This patient, you get a hug, you feel comfortable, you feel stable, you feel relaxed, and it makes you feel good. And then the second one is the more the clinical side. Because of the curve, your pelvis is lifted slightly up. So you have a reduction on pressure on on the central part of your body, so along the spine and the pelvis. And secondly, the curve does also that the surface area, so the contact area between your body and the mattress, is increasing. And due to that, the average pressure you have on the mattress is being reduced. So while you're laying on the mattress, you have a very low pressure, and the pressure on the places where you have to really be careful, as for example the sacrum, is reduced. That is the one side. I'll show you some figures and pictures of this afterwards, that you understand a little bit what is happening. The second thing is that when the curve is there, so after this first half hour, then the mattress starts to slowly to move from one side to the other side. How much you can decide. And the unique part of this again is that in this mattress, there are sensors. And the sensors, they register the different parts of the mattress. They register how much curve there is, and they register how much the turning movement is going to be. You decide how much curve, you decide how much turning degree there's going to be. But these sensors talk to each other. Not only I'm here in space, so now we have reached this 30 degrees or whatever you want. But secondly, that in the length of the mattress, they take care that the different parts of the mattress move at the same speed. So if you imagine that you have a patient with a large hips, small shoulders, and small legs, then you can imagine that this large hips will move at a different speed from the top and bottom part of the body. These sensors, they say, hey, we move at the same speed. So there is no twists and rotations in the body when it is moving. It is just moving as one. So we are very used to have people with fractures on the mattress. Even though this winter is very strange, it is very late, at least here in Oslo, and in the mountains. But soon we will have ice and snow again. People fall, they get their hip fractures, they get their ankle fractures and stuff like that. And then you have the queue for all the people who need to have their operations and stuff like that, their surgery. And to put a person full of pain on this mattress with their hip fracture, and then adjust the mattress so that it moves without loading, so putting weight on this fracture, and taking care that this person is not getting a pressure ulcer while they're waiting this 1, 2, 3, 4 days for this operation. You love it. The third thing is this very, very slow movement. So the whole idea is that the mattress is always in a movement. You are never, ever on the same spot. And when it is moving so slow that, well, you don't get pressure ulcers. They just don't are there. And when you have a pressure ulcer, and I mean the big ugly sacrum wounds, you will see within days that there is starting that the repair process is starting. And if you have not too much inflammations and other stuff in the wound, you will see a growth process going really fast, much faster than you can imagine. I'll show you some examples in a little second. The slow movement also does that maybe people with some kind of anxiety, like, for example, late stage dementia, very anxiety and can't sleep and stuff like that, they fall asleep. And they sleep through the night because there is no one coming there to disturb them, to reposition them. And you will see that these persons, the improvement of sleep and gives an improvement in how they function daytime. It's really interesting to see how it changes the life of not only the patient but also the nursing staff. And it is an all-in-one product. So on top you have a 2-layer foam mattress. The bottom layer of this foam mattress is cut in length, and that is to make this curve possible. At the same time, it does that the body immerses in a better way into the mattress, so you get a very good laying comfort. And under this foam mattress, there are 2 layers with air under it, and they do not much on pressure redistribution, but what they do is that the top layer makes the curve, and it keeps that in the position you have decided, and stays there for as long as you have decided. And then the bottom layer, that is doing the turning thing. So air is going from one side to the other, then decreasing, increasing, decreasing, increasing, and thus making this rotational movement, this lateral movement of the patient. It's a fun product. And so it stopped. Let's see. There. You see here a short video of what happens. You see that the sides are coming up. And then when the sides are up, it's going to one side. You see here a correction where the cells adapt, or the sensors adapt to themselves and say, now we have to move at once. I'll show it once more. The curve, and then it starts moving. And this movement is going continuously. So it just continues to move. And again, you see it here in what is it, 9 seconds or something. And this, in reality, this process takes everything from 50 minutes. There's a 30 minutes curve plus 20 minutes from one side to the other side. And then up to what is it then? 1.5 hours. So it is a very slow, long process. This is a different video, and I'll stop this here because what you see, someone has the mic on. What you see here is that a pressure mapping system. So the blue cloth here is that this young lady is laying on the pressure mapping system. So we can see what is going to happen. And then when this video continues, the start of the system, it is having a settings, and then I'll stop the video again here, and I go back here. So this is the moment just before, stop, now. This is the moment just before the curve is happening. And if you look at the pressure mapping, the pressure imaging of this young lady, you see the pelvic area. And in the pelvic area, I want a laser. In the pelvic area here, you see some orange and reddish area. And the other thing you see is that the shoulders are in a different position as in the legs. So she is laying here with the scoliosis. Her shoulders are more to her left side. And that gives a little bit, so she is laying here with the rotation. Just that you know what is happening. When we then start, when we then start the video again, no, come. Now my boom, boom, boom.
Probably the camera or the camera.
Yeah, I need to remove the lasers on. There it is. Sorry about that. Let's go here. So we were here. This is just before the curve is starting, and you see a little bit this redness or this orangey color on the sacrum, and then you see the curve. And when the curve is there, you see that the color on the pelvis has changed. It is now more greenish, yellowish. And then when this person is moving to one side and continuing to the other side, you will see, and now you concentrate on the pressure mapping on the left side, and I move the cursor forward and backwards, and you see that the weight of the person is moving from one side to one side to the other side. You see that? Ain't it fun? And this is what is happening through the whole session. We don't start again, so, and we go there. Next slide. Next slide. So what you see here is this is this lady on the flat mattress. So you see a little bit of this reddish color here, and this is on the curved mattress. If you have seen pressure mapping before, you understand this, but these colors, you can decide on pressure mappings what color it is going to be. The advice, there is guidelines from ISO, so the International Standard Organization. They advise to have the settings, the red on the pressure mapping to be on 50, between 50 and 60. When we had it on 50 and 60, you just saw a blue picture. You didn't see the differentiation. So we are tough people. So we said, okay, we make it more sensitive, and put then the red on 35. So what you see here as the orange part in the pelvis on the left-hand side on the flat mattress is that the pressure is about 26, 27, 28 millimeters mercury. On the right-hand side, so the curved mattress, it is more this green-yellow color, and that is about 22, 23, 24 millimeters mercury. You saw also on the elbow that it was red, and that is due to the twist in the body of this lady when she's laying there. That red elbow was about 32, 33 millimeters mercury. You don't see the heels because they are offloaded with a cushion under the heel, so you see a marking of the cushion. And if you then look at the surface area, so what I said is you have a reduction of pressure on your pelvis. I started with that. That is about 15%. And you have an increase in surface area. And the increase in surface area is about between 20 and 30% in average of all the users. And that is quite a lot, because that means that your average pressure goes down, and that helps in, again, preventing pressure ulcers. You don't feel that it moves. You don't hear that the mattress is moving or that the pump is working. It makes no sound, and you cannot see it. We've had so many situations that people start to use it and we get a call. It doesn't work. The patient is only in the same position. What is happening? Yeah, they've been outside for an hour, and then by coincidence, the patient is back in the same position. Come back in an hour, the patient in the same position, but it moves. It moves very, very slowly. So the question is then, who is the user? And it is suitable for kids. It is suitable for adults who need to be repositioned. It is for those who do not have sensibility. So it can be your spinal cord injured. Post-operative, you're sedated, you have to be immobile for maybe a day or 2 or 3 or 4. You use a Tidewave and they don't get pressure ulcers while they're waiting to have these things repaired. You can be born with something and your parents maybe have to get up, I don't know how many times per night to reposition you. From 9 kilos, the Tidewave can help you. So body weight for the person. Fractures. We have had hip fractures on it. We have had pelvic fractures on it. We have had shoulder fractures on it. Femur fractures, ankle fractures, of course, all with these pulleys on it. We've had spinal cord injured on it. We have had traumatic brain damage on it. Everything. All types of pains. We see a reduction of pains when the patients get on the Tidewave. Rheumatic pains, whatever pains you have because you've been laying still for hours, it reduces. Pressure injuries, they repair themselves. Late stage neurological, so think of MS, think of ALS, think of Huntington. Really good to see how these people fall asleep, sleep through the whole night, and are more movable when they wake up in the morning. And of course, also, if you have a person who is in the end, late state of life, they are going to die. For the patient, for the relatives, for the nursing staff, it is a relief to see the patient on the Tidewave, because the Tidewave does all the movements. They sleep better. They are better functioning during daytime or whenever they are awake. It makes it better for the patient. The laying position, in the beginning, we thought it was only supine. Now we have changed that mindset. And then we said, okay, you have to support the head a little bit so that when you're moving sideways, that it is not falling down. So you push up the pillows a little bit. You put a cushion under the knees to get a little bit relaxation in the pelvis and knees. And you have to, and that is you have to do an offloading of the heels. And the heels are the only place where we still have seen pressure ulcers. You need to offload it. It is always on the same spot. And even though you move, it is on the same spot. So you need to offload it one way or the other. And if you don't want to use a good cushion, or you want to use a booth, something like this to put under the patient with offloading of the heel and all the stuff around it, that functions really well. You can use any type of positioning, not any type, most types of flexible positioning cushions in the mattress. So if you have someone with deformities, please use it. I had a conversation with a hospital in Denmark yesterday. A guy with a 11 by 11 by 2 centimeters wound on his sacrum. He's been on the mattress now for a week, and they see the wound has started to repair. The guy had a frog position in his legs, so they were completely abducted and flexed and etc. They stabilized it with cushions, so when the curve came up, they used cushion to stabilize it. Guy sleeps through the night, is laughing again, making jokes again, feeling better. And the tissue viability nurse said, this is going to take a year to repair this wound. And I've made a bet with her that this patient's wound is repaired before February. I love to make beds like that. Just very short on the pump. It is quite simple and intuitive. Of course, you have the on and care button. If you push the care button, the little light will start blinking, and you have half an hour before the mattress starts curving up again. You have the stop button if the patient is going out of bed. You have an alarm if you raise the headrest above 30 degrees. I know many people in intensive care said, oh, our patients are there. We have a lot of mattresses in use in intensive care units, and they all say, oh, the patient is doing better, even though we only lift it to 29 degrees. That is security. If you tilt at the same time, you may fall out. So we have said we can't go over that. Then the mattress becomes just a flat mattress. An alarm for if there is an error, and there is a CPR under the pump. You have a standard program. So if there are no specific situations, just use the standard program and the patient will do well. This is for prevention. It functions. It does it good. If you have special situations, whatever it might be, then you can individualize it. And what you can individualize is the turning direction. So you can choose if it goes to both sides, only one side. You can decide how much degrees it's going to tilt. So the curve is going to be, and the tilt is going to be. You can put in a delay. So the lowest one, the 12 o'clock, that is no delay. It goes continuously. And then you can have a short break of 15 minutes on the end of the movement or half an hour. And the turning speed is, it can go slow, slower, or even slower than that. The slow, so the 3 arrows, that means that it is from top on one side to the top on the other side. So half a cycle will take 20 minutes. The 2 arrows is 40 minutes, and the 1 arrow, it's going extremely slow from top on one side to the top on the other side, 1 hour. And people love it. So if you now imagine that you have this pressure ulcer on your sacrum. The goal is, of course, to reduce time spent on your sacrum. So the logical thing is that you say, I want the thing to move to both sides, right? That is the easy part. And to be sure that you offloaded the sacrum totally, it is best to have the maximum curve. And honestly, the maximum curve, many patients react on that. They say, oh, that's a little bit itchy feeling, and etc. So for most patients, we say just use the medium one, the medium curve. That's about 20 degrees, and they do well. But for the sacrum, and if you have a sacrum wound, it is wise to really take care of this offloaded. So you want to tilt it maximum. And then the delay and turning speed, they are combined. You want a long delay, and you want to have it go full speed. Full speed is extremely slow, because then it stops on the side for half an hour, stays there for half an hour, and then it flies over to the other side and stays there for half an hour. So for half an hour pulse and 20 minutes movement, in 50 minutes, this person is maybe 6-7 minutes on the sacrum. You see the wound healing. I've seen many picture series where you see every second day they've taken a picture, and you see it repairing. It's fun. For other problems, so if you have a specific problem, you have a fracture somewhere, you have whatever specific situation, we have made their own programs or suggestions for programs for how to handle, how to do the pump settings, so that for this specific situation that we have a solution for this patient. So what are the effects? As I said, you don't get pressure ulcers if you're at risk of that. Even large wounds start to heal. So category 1 wounds, 3-4 days gone, etc. And you have a reduction in pain, you have a better sleep, you have an improved lung function. So it is not that you're laying on one side for 3 hours and then on the other side for 3 hours, and you get a lot of mucus in your lungs not being moved. You're moving constantly. So you see that the ventilation is going much better. As one nurse said once, she said that in an end of life stage, you have the death rattle. And she said it was crazy to see how this death rattle was reduced when they used the Tidewave. And of course, the joint stiffness, the people are less stiff in the morning when they wake up. And we see that as the same thing, that you have this constant movement in your body, and thus you get a different effect on your body. Very shortly on what we have done with users, what we advise people, especially when they are new with the product, that they do a before trial schedule and just tick the box on certain things, and then after they've done the trial, that they do the same exercise, that if there are wounds, that they take pictures of the wounds before and after, and so that you can see the difference. Sometimes they share it with us, many times of course not, but you see the things. So this guy, he was had a huge cardiac arrest. He was in a coma. I don't know if that was an induced coma or a real coma. And he was put on the Tidewave on the standard program because he had no other specific problems. The nursing staff thought it was, of course, complex to handle him, but with the Tidewave it was easy, so they were happy. And we have this question, what you want to achieve, and etc. Not going into that, but everyone was happy with that. No pressure ulcers, of course. And then how often did they reposition him? This was a hospital in an area, but it said prevention is every second hour repositioning, so 12 times a day. 2 nurses needed, 12 minutes per time, and then you can calculate how many hours per day nursing staff is used on this patient. That's nearly 5 hours to reposition this patient, and that time it was, of course, saved more or less by using the Tidewave. But in the autumn survey in Denmark, on an geriatric ward, 18 patients, nearly all these patients had sepsis or something like that. So inflammations, that they were seriously ill. And they saved also here it was 4 hours, 32 minutes per patient per day in nursing time, which was saved by use of the Tidewave. And of course, that is good. And no patients got pressure ulcers on the mattress, and no wounds, if they had, became worse, which is good. And then we have a case of a wound. This is a woman, she had had a cancer, got a spinal cord injury because of the cancer, and she had had a wound on the sacrum. So we had the settings, I talked about that, so we're not going into it. I just say it works. It was again demanding, blah, blah. Let's go on to the time use and what happens to the wound. So here she was 14 hours per day in bed, so it was not 24/7 in bed situation. So the savings was 1 hour 30 minutes, and then you had a wound. And I guess you're all used to see wounds, but this wound is then 3 by 2.5 by 2.5. At this moment, the nursing staff said, so the tissue viability nurse said, they reckoned that this wound would take 2 to 3 months to repair. This was the situation. This was the medication they used. They used it on all patients. And this, so we had an agreement to come back after 6 weeks to see how it went. And then they said, yeah, the patient has gone home because the wound was closed. The patient was sent home after 4 weeks. Then the wound was more closed than this, but it wasn't strong enough. So when she came home, manual repositioning, the whole shebang, the wound opened a little bit again. She should have been for maybe another 4 or 5 days on the mattress so that it would have closed properly. So this picture was still taken after 5 weeks, right? And the fun was then that the tissue viability nurse said, okay, I've seen this, I understand what happened. I need to use the mattress on another patient. I did not include the pictures in this, but that was a large wound, 9 by 9, I think it was. It was half a centimeter deep, and after 3 weeks, this was closed. But think of the costs. So what if you reduce the time from, say, 8 to 12 weeks to 4 to 6 weeks? So let's say that you reduce it by 30 days. Now, well, I have some figures here. In Sunnaas Hospital in Norway, in Oslo, the cost per day is 13,000 NOK. That is then 165,000 Icelandic krona. And if you think then 30 days reduction in stay in the hospital, you get some money out of it. If you want to calculate that, and if you think that is a good way of saying to your manager that, hey, you're going to save money here on repairing these wounds, this might be an idea to think about. It is a lot of money. If we compare ourselves a little bit with what other products there are and what they do and etc., and what the nursing staff does today. What the nursing staff does today is you position the patient in a position A, and then after a couple of hours you position them in a position B and maybe even in a position C, but then you go back to A again. That is the routine every day. And if you look at products who do something, they do more or less the same. They're all inside this box, is that you have to reposition every so many hours and stuff like that. If you look at ourselves, how we move constantly. We have, as we started with today, something like every 7 minutes in average, a larger movement of our bodies. And that is maybe also what a Tidewave does. By thinking outside the box, you get a hug and then you move the whole time. You and the mattress move as one, so no shear, no or reduced pressure, and no time. The time is gone with the Tidewave. You're never on the same spot. So this is a little bit what a Tidewave does. You have a flat mattress, it curves first half hour, and then it starts with this turning cycle. So 20 minutes from top to top means 40 minutes for a complete cycle, and then 80 minutes or 120 minutes. And you can, of course, put in how much delay you want to put in into this. If you have alternating air mattresses, you have all these air cells laying there, and they are connected in 2 or 3 or 4 cells at a time in a cycle. And the system is built up quite easy. You have every cell is on the same height, and then in the cycle, one cell will go down, and that takes some time. I wrote here 1 minute to go down. It stays down for some minutes, maybe 2, maybe 3, and then it uses a little bit of time to get up again, and then all cells are on top again. And then the other cell will go down and stay there for a while, etc. And then you have a full cycle. The problem is with these mattresses that even though in the 90s we thought maybe that, oh, it solves all the problems and you don't have to reposition the patient again, you still need to reposition just as often as on a foam mattress. And a good foam mattress and a low quality, cheap air mattress, they do approximate the same as in pressure, also distribution, etc. But if you compare these to each other, so you have air cells all across the body. If you have a 2-cell cycle, 50% of the support surface will disappear. That means that you get an increase in pressure on the cells still loaded. You still need to reposition, and maybe they help in wound care, but then it is mostly the more advanced and more expensive mattresses who have an effect. With the Tidewave, we have the Tidewave curve, so you get your increased surface area, reduction in pressure. You have the constant movement of the mattress and the user, so you're never on the same spot. You won't get wounds. No need for manual repositioning other than when you have to care for the patient and it is doing something in the wound care. And then you have these bed bottom tilt systems. So you have a system either in the mattress that air cells are coming up and pulling you over, or that the bed bottom is lifting you up. The systems, they work quite a lot like the nursing routine. So when this coming up, it takes 2.5 minutes to get up. There's one system with 3.5 minutes, but that's about the thing. 2.5 minutes to get up. Then it stays there for X time, up to 4 hours. Then the thing is going down, and either the other side is coming up immediately. So 2.5 down, 2.5 up. And you have your reposition, you stay there for hours, etc. And the patient will move. There was a key opinion leader in a Central European country, no names mentioned, but he said he's a very recognized tissue viability nurse. He said we were a little bit bored of picking the patient out of the side rails every morning. And the other thing is that the interesting thing is that the nurses started to turn off the system at night because they didn't have to go into the patient so often to help them get back in place on the mattress. So you may slide on these mattresses, which then induces shear forces. You lay there for maybe a very long time. And when the mattress is moving, you hear it very well. And our system, you move as one, slowly. You have no shear forces. You have no sliding effect. You are stable and comfortable, and you move all the time. And you don't hear it. So just to a little bit about the weight, we have a safe working load. So what kind of physical load it will tolerate, what we say today is 200 kilos, and we have a maximum user weight for intended use. So in our intended use, we state that this mattress will help to prevent and repair wounds included category 4, so all wound types. And then we say that the body weight should not exceed 150 kilos. We are currently doing tests for a higher weight, but 150 kilos, then we say we guarantee you that these wounds will repair, that the mattress will help to repair the wounds. That is according to a mattress standard that we state is there are very few other companies who have the maximum user weight for intended use statement, and I would like you to ask them about it. Just ask them for, okay, you have your safe working load, but what load does the mattress tolerate to prevent those pressure ulcers? That's a different figure you will get. We have different sizes. We do not only 85, but also 80 centimeters. And we have just introduced, I see that I have forgotten to update the slide, but we go from 80 centimeters to 110 centimeters in mattress width, and we go then from length 190 centimeters and up to 220 centimeters for all those sizes. The children's size is going from 9 to 60 kilos, and the adult size is then going from 40 to 150 kilos. It is made to last. So we have a technical lifetime of 10 years. Yes, you have to change a few things, but the main product lives 10 years, which is unique. There are no others doing this. And then the sound level. I said it makes no sound, but it is 19 decibel when it is running. And that is Well, you can't hear it. So what is that? It is the hug who stabilize you as a patient. You turn synchronized, you can turn continuously, and it is an all-in-one system. And I said it prevents and cures pressure ulcers. What we talked about is reducing the pressure, so the curve reduces the pressure. It eliminates shear because the patient and the mattress move synchronized. There is no shear forces. Because it moves continuously, we have removed the time factor from this equation, and the staff has to do quite a lot less work to keep these patients moving.